Hey everyone, I have just read, well no that's a lie, I read about 2 weeks ago, this book, The Art of Spending Money by Morgan Housel, or Housel, I'm not sure how to say it. Simple choices for a richer life, The Art of Spending Money. The way I'll do this is I'll just go through the chapters. The chapters are quite short. I'll go through the title of each chapter and a little bit of what's in the chapter, and then I'll give you what I got from the book, my take on the book. Hopefully that'll be helpful for you. When I saw this book, I thought, oh, great. It's one thing when you're completely broke, but when you have got a little bit of money, you don't want to waste it. And so when I saw it, I thought, oh, great, this might be useful in terms of just not wasting, or actually using it to improve things, any money you have. I think the desire to find a book that showed me how to do that comes from knowing a lot of people with varying degrees of money, some with very little money, some with more money than they could possibly spend in several lifetimes, and realizing that there's no correlation between the amount of money they have and how good a life they seem to lead. A good life is a life where they're happy, they're in control, they're not stressed, they're not angry, they're not bitter. Down at the lower end, there's maybe more of a correlation between people who are angry and bitter and a bit upset, but that's because a lack of money gives you a lack of choice, and a lack of future planning ability. Even, if you're very, very poor, how can you think about the future when all the money you make will be spent by tomorrow? Then you have to go back to work, or all the money you make is spent on just paying off debts or a mortgage or something. But still, some of those people are happy. So that's why I wanted to read this book, and also because I've read his previous book, The Psychology of Money, which I thought was really good. I think that's reviewed on this channel as well. So I'll do what I said I was going to do now. I'll read you what's written on the back of the book to start with. The new third book from the best-selling author of The Psychology of Money and Same as Ever. I've not read Same as Ever. With lessons on harnessing the power of money to live a happier life. Can money buy happiness? Yes. Can spending it make you happier? Absolutely. Yet, many of us struggle to unlock its full potential, either by spending on things that don't bring us much joy as they should, or by avoiding investments that will truly enhance our mental well-being. In The Art of Spending Money, award-winning and global best-selling author Morgan Housel offers a refreshingly practical approach to managing wealth while finding deeper meaning and contentment. Instead of cookie-cutter financial advice, Housel provides you with psychological tools to navigate your personal relationship with money and optimize for happiness. Discover why people often mistake envy for admiration, how to align your expectations with your income, and ways to invest in future happiness while avoiding regret. Learn about the dangers of social debt and embrace the radical idea that the fastest way to build wealth is by going slowly. The Art of Spending Money delves into the complexities that surround money. Envy, social aspirations, identity, and insecurity, crucial aspects often missed in traditional finance books. Armed with new insights into money and wealth, you'll learn to sidestep common spending traps, make smarter investing choices, and wield money to its fullest potential to enhance your enjoyment of life. Sounds good, right? Now I'm going to go through the actual chapters. Introduction, the quest of the simple life. Let's not bother about the introduction so much. Let's just go to the chapters. And I'll read you the author's note as well, because that's pretty good. Okay, that's the introduction done. All behavior makes sense with enough information. That's something that the author heard from his brother-in-law, who is a social worker. Some people tend to do what seems to others as completely crazy things with their money and their life, but the choices they are making are because of the information they have and the experiences they've had. So I think that's about just not being judgmental. I knew, I still know actually, one person in particular who has done quite well, has a fair amount of money, but I remember every conversation used to start with that person saying, such and such other mutual acquaintance of ours needs to sort their fucking life out. It was all judgment. And the person wasn't particularly happy. I hope they're a bit happier now. So, people seem to do crazy things with their money, but it comes down to their life, their information, their choices. May I have your attention, please? Chapter 2. This is people spending money on things like flash clothes, flash watches, flash cars, a bigger house, whatever. And it's because they want people to admire them, because they want attention. And that desire for attention, it's all about the advertising. Oh, drive this and people will think you're great. It's not how it works. What they're admiring, if they are admiring you rather than envying you or thinking, oh, look at that wanker, look at that twat, is it's nothing to do with you. And if they do really like it, then it's nothing to do with you. It's to do with the object. Maybe sometimes you'll see somebody who has the car you want, the style you want, the everything you want, and you think, oh, they're cool. But usually it's just, oh, nice car. You don't care who's driving it, right? It's important to realize that if all you want is attention, then spending lots of money on flashy things is not a way to get it. The happiest people I know, this is chapter 3. If your expectations grow faster than your income, you'll never be happy with your money. So, once you can get something, enjoy it for a bit. Don't buy the house and then think, oh, now I need a bigger house because I've got a bit more money. Because then what you want is always a bit ahead of what you can have, and you'll never be happy. It's a treadmill. It's going to kill you. It's funny when you have very little money that you often see things and you think, oh, if I bought that, oh, I'd like that, oh, if I could have that. And really it's because there's something missing in here. It's not in your wallet, and you think that buying the next thing will fill the hole in here. Because suddenly when you have the money to do that thing or to have that thing you always want, you don't want it anymore. You never wanted it in the first place. You just wanted to feel a bit better about yourself, and usually having more money and being able to have a choice will make you feel better about yourself. Or just being happy with the money you do have. Now, I understand some people have very little and find it hard to live. That's not applicable to what I just said. It's not applicable to that situation. The most valuable financial asset is not needing to impress anyone. This goes back to the thing about wanting attention, isn't it? And this reminds me, tying in with my own experience. The happiest people I know, regardless of how much money they have or don't have, and the ones who are the most fun to be around, and the ones who people most like, are the ones who really don't give a shit about what anybody thinks. Not in an obnoxious way. That applies to some people I know with little money, and some people I know with okay money, and some people I know who have more money than the vast majority of the world's population would. The nicest ones are the ones who are comfortable in themselves, the ones who have the confidence. They don't really care what people think. They're not trying to impress anybody. They're just going around life and living it as well as they can without being an obnoxious twat. But really, if you are being an obnoxious twat, then, as I'm saying all of this, I'm starting to think a lot of people who work in finance, but then they work in those environments where they're taught that the only thing that matters is money, and if you haven't got more money than me, you're a useless waste of space, and if I've got more money than anybody, then I'm greater than anybody, and even if I haven't, I want to create the impression that I have. They must be some miserable, what begins with F and rhymes with cluckers, right? They are. Anyway, the ability to not need to prove yourself to strangers is priceless. Yes, it is. Remember when you were a teenager, maybe some people listening, and you really didn't give a damn? You weren't just being rebellious and saying, I don't give a damn. You really didn't give a damn what people thought, and how happy were you? What makes you happy? A good life is everything you need with some of what you want. If you have everything you want, you appreciate none of what you have. It's good to be able to get some things, but not great to be able to have everything. And here I think they talk about the Vanderbilts, who wants the first Vanderbilt to become really, really wealthy, made all his money, and left about 300 billion, or the equivalent of that in today's money, to his descendants. They were all absolutely miserable for the next 60 years, in which time all the money was gone. And they raised all 4 kids. They were all miserable. A lot of them died in horrible ways, because they thought it was all about, look at the money I've got, I'm going to spend it. I'm going to impress everybody. I'm going to have a bigger house. Chapter 7, the rich and the wealthy. Being controlled by money is a hidden form of debt, and like all debt, it will eventually be repaid plus interest. Wealthy, he describes as having enough money and being able to use it to be yourself and do the things that are good for your mental health and the things that are good for you. Rich is just being able to get the things you want, but you're still controlled by it. You've got to work to get the next thing. Utility versus status. Oh my God, what was I saying earlier about wanting to impress people as opposed to just getting what you need? You know, I've got to get a bigger house to impress people. Oh, I might need to get a bigger house because I've got an extra kid now. It'd be nice for them all to have their own space. Or, you know, I've got the money now to be able to spend time with the people I actually want to spend time with, rather than just being at work all the time. As opposed to I've got to outwork everybody to impress them. I'll get a bigger paycheck. Risk and regret. Good advice is never as simple as live for today or save for the future. The only good advice is minimize future regret. That's apparently what Jeff Bezos did when he had the idea of Amazon. He thought, am I going to regret not taking this decision and starting this company? Yes, I'm going to regret it massively. So he gave it a shot and it paid off. I'm sure there are stories of people for whom it didn't pay off and the regrets died, but maybe they don't regret trying. And it'd been nice to succeed, but they don't regret trying. Take shots, people. I'm no wise sage, but life is always better when you take the risk. Not crazy risks that are going to ruin you. You know, think about that conversation that you had that changed your life. Think about that job you tried or that business you tried that paid off for however many years. Take risks. But then there are other people who say, I saw a great documentary yesterday called Time and Water. Really beautiful. And the narrator asked one of his grandparents just before they die, you know, what advice do you have? And he says, you know, it's so much fun making mistakes and there's no point in ever saving money. That's the advice of one person, and he had lived a very good life. Another person would say, just save. And there's a chapter on saving in here. I think there's a chapter on saving in here. When I get to it, I'll realize if I'm right or wrong. Look at them. Jealous, envy, and the pride of not caring what others think. There's a theme here, isn't it? Stop worrying about doing better or having bigger than others. And this whole bullshit social media stuff, you think you're seeing people's lives. They're showing you the stage show. They're not showing you the 99% bullshit behind the 1% stage show. There's the old thing about the hired Lamborghini for the social influencer coming to my mind now. Wealth without independence is a unique form of poverty. Damn right. Money you haven't spent, this is what I was saying about saving money, what he says about saving money. Money you haven't spent buys something intangible but valuable. Freedom, independence, and being able to spend time in your own way. What does it mean by that? Let's say I've got 10 grand sitting there and I hate my job and my monthly expenses are 1,500. Well, if I spend all of that 10 grand, then I've just got to stick out the job. Whereas if I give myself time to maybe retrain or to take time out or to find another job and I haven't spent all that money, I've got the freedom, I've got the choice to do that. That 10 grand will tide me over for about 6 months, right? Yeah, 9 grand anyway, so $1.5 grand times 6. I'm quite enjoying doing it like this. I'm sure I'll get some comments. Social debt. When how you spend your money influences what people think of you in unwanted ways. Yeah, that's a chapter I think I'll leave you to read. Quite compounding. Social debt, I think it's this, right? So let's say if you got really poor and suddenly you're making a lot of money, and this is, you see this with sports stars a lot. You see this with lottery winners a lot. And it's not always that they can't handle the money. They can't hold on to the money, or the money messes them up psychologically, which is one of these lovely kind of, you know, lovely in inverted commas, kind of capitalist ownership arguments about, oh, if you don't earn your own money, it will just ruin you. You know, as in, we can't ever allow for welfare or helping people. They have to earn their own money. No, that's not the case, people. The case is, if you grew up really poor, and then suddenly you're making £1 million a year, you know, it's not your £1 million. It's your mum's £1 million. You buy her a house. It's your aunt's £1 million. If you're in America with that shitty healthcare system, you pay for her treatment. It's your friends who grew up poor with you £1 million, and you have to help them out. And everybody around you who's in poverty, and all the debt that the people around you had to take on just to get by in, you know, a debt-laden system. It's not always stupidity. I'm sure sometimes it is. Just don't know how to handle the money, you know. Quiet compounding. Yeah, quiet compounding works like crazy. The earlier you start, the better. Pick investments that you're comfortable with, not just the highest return. Investments that you're comfortable with. Highest return usually entails a lot of risk. If you can't take the risk, you'll pull it out at the wrong time, you'll lose everything. There's a great saying in this one. Nature is not in a hurry, yet everything is accomplished, said the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu. I hope I said that right. What he means by that is you don't see nature moving, but look, there's a humongous continent, there's a tectonic plate. that bird has incredible feathers, that lion has incredible, strength. Everything's accomplished, but it all happens slowly. But if things happen continuously slowly, the end result is mind-blowing. That's compounding for you. Okay. Which chapter are we on? Identity. When money controls who you are. Yeah, that's fucked up. You have to know who you are, and the money is one of your tools. Not you are one of the money's tools. I'm sure you know people like that, But I have to have a big car because I'm a banker, a business owner, but I... blah, blah, blah. Try something new. I can't recommend this enough. Within the confines of your budget, experiment with as many types of spending as you can, cutting quickly and without mercy the things that aren't working for you. That's why it's an art. It's not a science. Everyone is different. Some people don't care about clothes. So, just because they got money doesn't mean they have to spend a lot. Some people don't care about food. They could just eat cheap even though they could afford a private chef. Some people just want to travel. Don't do what society tells you have to do. Try everything and stick with what works. Experiment. And you don't try absolutely everything. There are some things you probably know you'd hate, right? For example, if I had millions of quid, I wouldn't have grills for teeth. I think there's nothing quite as hideous. Your money and your kids. Oh, this is a good one. So how many people have you met who went to private school or something and are utterly entitled, look down on everybody, think they're better than everybody? I usually thick as shit because the results in private schools aren't necessarily any better than state schools. Just aren't rounded, just can't mix with people who aren't of the right breeding. I've not really ever met anybody who went to private school who I didn't think was a dick. That's what I'm saying. So because they were raised by parents who instilled in them the values that because they've got more money, they're better than everybody else. Oh no, they're just wankers. You can be really, really rich and raise great kids, but what you teach them is that your personality, how you interact with people, how you are with people, how hard you work is what makes you better or not than anybody else. And even if you are better, you shouldn't lord it over people. The amount of money you've got is fairly irrelevant to your value as a human being. That raises good kids. I'm losing my voice, so if I start intonating in a peculiar way, I do apologize. Spreadsheets don't care about your feelings. Emotions are more insightful than numbers. Yeah. The story in there is that when him and his wife went to buy a house and they had a budget and everything, they saw one house, the first house, and it was way over budget, but they just both loved it as soon as they walked in and that was it. They bought it. Right? So emotions are more powerful than spreadsheets. The finer things, the wisdom and futility of obsessing over small purchases. Sometimes small purchases really don't matter. Sometimes they do. Like if it's a small purchase, say £2, but you're spending that £2 every single day and you're kind of broken at the end of the year, that's £730 or something, and that £730 spent on something else could have maybe made a much better impact on your life, then it makes sense. But fussing over, I'm going to spend 5 hours looking for which is the cheapest microwave to buy. They're all pretty much the same. Get one that matches your kitchen. Right? So that's the wisdom and futility of obsessing over small purchases. The life cycle of greed and fear. Greed and fear will fuck you up financially. How to be miserable spending your money. You know what? I'm going to do this one. I'm just going to read you the bold because this is a good chapter. Direct your gaze at the socio-economic group just above you, assuming that within it you will find a level of durable happiness. But guess what? When you get there, you'll be looking at the socio-economic group just above you and you'll still be miserable. Pursue status at the expense of independence. Fuck that. I'm sorry. Lots of swearing. Let money, the making of it, the spending of it, the accumulation of it become a core part of your identity. You sad, boring git. Spend so much of your income that you become completely reliant on the decisions of other people like bosses and bankers. Nah, don't do that. Fantasize about having more money. Fantasize that having more money is the solution to all of your problems. It's not. Assume money can solve none of your problems and that it is the raw... What's going wrong with me? Blah. Assume money can solve none of your problems and that it is the root of evil and ego. It's not. Have such a fair saving ideology that you're never able to treat yourself to a good life you can afford. What's the point? When taking stock of your own life, assume that all your success is due to hard work and all your failure is due to bad luck. It's not. A lot of success is due to luck and a lot of just because you do the right stuff, it isn't always gonna turn out the right way. You know, there's this thing called life that comes and shits on your plans. And your plan, like Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan. No, he didn't say everyone has a plan. Maybe that is what he said, but he said everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Life will punch you in the mouth. Have such a fair saving. I've already done that one, I'm sorry. When taking stock of your own life, assume that all your. I've already done that one too. Compare your inside with other people's outside. This is the social media thing, isn't it? I'm only going to show you what makes me look real good, but all the inside shit is hidden. So don't think your inside is comparable to their outside. It's not. Ignore the hidden social, emotional, and expectation costs that come from certain purchases. I can't remember what that one is, so I'm going to read it to you. Ignore what some purchases will do to other people's impression of you. Forget that you may have created a higher bar you'll need to exceed during the next purchase, which is a hidden form of debt. Okay. Have no sense of your own tendency to regret. Aha! What was that? Aha! Reduce regret. That's the best advice. I think we covered that in an earlier bit. Associate net worth with self-worth. No. For you and others. No. How many rich, complete assholes do you know? How many lovely people who don't have much money do you know? And vice versa. Your worth is what you're worth as a person, not as a number. Treat all financial decisions as math decisions with no appreciation for reasonable emotions, sentimental value, and desire to feed your soul. We covered that with the thing about the house purchase. Be persuaded by the advice and lifestyle of those who need or want something from you. Con men, like Nigel Farage. Oh, we could call Nigel Farage the NF. You know, I remember when he said, I've done more to stop the far right in this country than anybody else. Yeah, that's because they're your main competition. They were before you became the head honcho. Anchor your lifestyle expectations to the most successful people you know. No, don't. That's like anchoring your physical expectations to Arnold. But the dude had steroids and you don't. And if you do, then you're an idiot. Become so optimistic that your expectations grow faster than income. Once you make the money, go, woohoo! Now what can I do with this sensibly before I make some more? And I want to try to do more before I make some more. Risk what you need in order to gain what you don't need. Stupid. Overestimate the attention you get from having nice stuff. Stupid. Assume you have all the right answers. Okay, so that's that chapter over. And what was I saying earlier about your value as a person? Because chapter 21 is the luckier you are, the nicer you should be. You know, I get more of a thrill out of giving £5 to a homeless person with nothing than I do spending £5 on a coffee or a cake. I'm sure that's true for most people. It's much more fun to be able to buy a present for somebody you love than it is to go out and splurge on yourself all the time. It's nice to splurge on yourself occasionally. This is 23 minutes long, which is longer than most of my reviews, but this is a good. I'm not going to give this 10 out of 10. I'll give it about 7 out of 10, but that's because I've read a lot of books on psychology and money. Maybe if you haven't read any books on psychology and money, this will be a godsend for you and you'll really enjoy it, but I think you'll enjoy it either way. I haven't read his second book, but I've read The Psychology of Money, and I recommend that as well if you haven't read it. I do recommend this, The Art of Spending Money. If I haven't spoiled it all for you by telling you too much, I hope not. Go out and read it anyway, because maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that.